Hello. Today I'm going to read about Steve Jobs. Little People, Big Dreams. Little Steve was born in San Francisco. He was just a baby when he was adopted by Mr. and Mrs. Jobs, a couple who promised to parent him with all their love and the best education they could afford. Steve was interested in how things were made and had a great time working with his dad in the garage. But he found school quite boring. Steve soon realized that the only way to do great work is to love what you do. One day, he joined a club for curious kids run by an electronics company. Fascinated by the walkie-talkies and instant cameras, Steve stumbled on a mysterious machine that he had never seen before. It was a computer. It was huge. There was no way a 12-year-old kid could fit it in their room. Steve spent the whole summer at the electronics club learning everything about computers, the most awesome tool ever invented. In high school, some people thought Steve was a nerd. Others thought he was a hippie. But Steve was just himself. He could talk about electronics for hours with his friend Woz. And after having long walks with his other friend, Chrisanne, he realized how much he liked art, literature, and her. Steve didn't want his parents to spend their life savings on his college diploma, so he dropped out. But he continued to sneak into the classes that interested him, like calligraphy, which taught him the art of writing beautifully. He saved all his money and took a long trip to India. Practicing meditation, Steve learned not to worry about yesterday or tomorrow and to focus on today. He knew that one day everything he had learned would connect. Back in California, Steve went to see his friend Woz, who was busy working on a homemade computer. Steve thought it would be great if everyone could have a computer at home. He and Woz decided to start a business together. They gave their company the name of a fruit, Apple. Steve's garage became their headquarters. They spent long days and nights programming and imagining what a personal computer might look like. Woz was the genius engineer, but it was Steve's idea to make computers simple and easy to use. Soon they went from selling 200 computers to becoming a super successful company. What company do you think it is? Steve knew that great things are never done by one person, but by a team of people. He hired the most talented artists, designers, and engineers and challenged them to think differently to create the most extraordinary devices. Whether it was a computer or a mobile phone, Steve showed the world that design is not just about how things look, but about how they work, too. For him, good design should help make life easier for everyone. And little Steve became one of the most successful entrepreneurs the world has ever seen, a hero in everyday technology. All this just by having the courage to follow his heart and his intuition. Oh, there you go. So he was born in 1955 and he died in 2011. Steve was born in San Francisco in 1955. His birth parents chose to place him for adoption when he was a baby, and Steve became part of the Jobs family, son to Paul and Clara. Paul was a machinist and encouraged his young son to join him in his garage workshop each day after school. Together, they took apart everyday objects like radios and put them back together, learning how each one was made. Aged 12, at summer camp, Jobs fell in love with a machine called a computer, which was, at that time, big enough to fill a room. Later that year, he became friends with Steve Wozniak, with whom he bonded over a love for electronics. Wozniak was a few years older than Jobs and a student in engineering. After graduating from high school, Jobs went to Reed College, but found the classes boring and soon dropped out. Taking a job with the video game maker Atari, he saved money to travel. He visited India, where much of the philosophy he was reading was put into practice by the Zen Buddhists he met. When Jobs returned to California, he took this new way of thinking with him. At that point, Wozniak was working for Hewlett-Packard, designing his own personal computer in his spare time. Jobs suggested they go into business together, sharing his vision that every person should have access to a computer from the comfort of their home. Built in the Jobs garage, the Apple I was made. It was the first of its kind and the beginning of one of the most successful technology companies of all times. Years later, Jobs suffered from cancer and died at age 56. His vision and courage to follow your intuition lives on today. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.